Hello everyone, welcome to time-tested advice. Picture a young girl whose mum should be her biggest cheerleader, but instead, she's the one who always takes her energy, blames her for things, and makes everything revolve around herself. For a Sigma female, a woman who prizes her independence, clarity, and self-respect, dealing with a self-centered mother is like walking through a minefield of emotions every day. A Sigma female doesn't just get by in this situation. She changes the rules and stands her ground with a kind of strength that's both bold and silently firm. She avoids getting caught in power struggles, feelings of guilt, or constant quests for approval. Rather, she stays solid, setting clear limits and safeguarding her own identity without feeling sorry. Where most might feel stuck, a Sigma refuses to be reshaped or reduced. Her strategy isn't about getting back at someone or acting out. It's about being authentic to herself in spite of the turmoil around her. This journey isn't simple, it's straightforward and demands true honesty. But the Sigma female knows that her mom's actions are not her responsibility to correct. What does she focus on? She focuses on rising above it all and living life on her terms, no matter how tangled, messy, or out of the ordinary it may seem. Let's explore 14 brutally honest insights into the life of a Sigma female with a self-centered mother. Ready to begin? For a deeper look, I encourage you to watch the full video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Number 1. She changes the traditional ways mothers and daughters interact. A Sigma female understands that expecting a normal, loving relationship with a self-centered mother is not possible. The image of a caring, supportive mother looking out for her daughter doesn't apply in this situation. Rather than clinging to this false hope, she accepts the reality of her mother's flaws and selfishness. This clarity isn't about being unfeeling, it's about seeing things as they are. She knows that hoping for affection or approval from her mother will only bring her grief and letdown, so she doesn't depend on her mother for emotional support or acceptance. In her life, she sets the rules for how they interact, creating her own boundaries. She avoids feeling guilty or thinking she must solve her mother's problems. Her method is straightforward, recognizing that genuine love doesn't require her to compromise her own health and happiness. She recognizes that her mother's actions are self-serving and don't reflect on her own value. This understanding allows her to make decisions that are best for her without having to justify herself or ask for approval. Number 2. She deals with the dynamics between being favored or ignored. A Sigma female knows all about the tricky games a self-centered mother plays, like turning siblings against each other by favoring one as the perfect child and blaming the other for everything wrong. These roles are meant to keep everyone unsure, always seeking approval or trying to dodge criticism. However, a Sigma sees right through these harmful strategies. She doesn't care for any label her mother gives, whether it's praise today or blame tomorrow. She's immune to this divide and rule method. Instead of vying for her mother's favor or feeling bitter towards her siblings, she steps aside and looks at the situation calmly and objectively. She refuses to accept these labels or let them influence her self-worth. No matter if she's complimented or critiqued, she stays stable, aware that these roles are just ways her mother tries to stay in charge. This strength distinguishes her. While others might get caught in feeling either better or bitter, a Sigma female avoids both. She doesn't let her mother's changing views shape who she is or affect her relationships with her siblings. By not engaging in the game, she stops the ongoing cycle of competition and hard feelings that her mother aims to foster. She's too sensible to be influenced by temporary judgments and too smart to be manipulated. This confidence helps her remain true to herself, unaffected by her mother's divisive schemes. Number 3. She ignores insincere apologies and superficial kindness. A Sigma female quickly sees through her self-centered mother's empty apologies and fake kindness. These actions, filled with pretend warmth or the typical "my sincerest apologies," aim to draw her back, encouraging her to let her guard down and momentarily overlook past pains. However, a Sigma is too clever to be deceived. She recognizes that these actions are not signs of genuine change. They are merely strategies, a temporary fix to maintain control or ease tensions until the next big argument. She doesn't accept these small shows of love because she knows they always come with conditions. A forced smile here, a half-hearted apology there. It's all part of a cycle of manipulation. Her mother uses these actions as bait, hoping they will be enough to lure her back into old habits. But a Sigma has learned that true love and responsibility don't come with strings attached, and she refuses to settle for lukewarm efforts that lead nowhere. By ignoring these insincere apologies and fleeting moments of kindness, she maintains control over her emotional boundaries. She isn't influenced by temporary gestures or brief displays of affection, and she won't allow herself to be pulled back into a relationship that only drains her. This clear-headed approach keeps her independent and focused, enabling her to safeguard her peace without feeling guilty or doubting her decisions. She knows her value, and she's finished seeking approval that was never genuinely hers to claim. Number 4. She carefully manages what personal information she shares. A Sigma female understands that when tackling with a self-centered mother, having control over what information she shares is crucial. It acts not just as power, but sometimes as a defense. She's careful about how she communicates, only revealing what she must and keeping most of her personal details private. This approach isn't about being secretive, it's about protecting herself. By sharing less, she prevents her mother from using personal information against her. She meticulously selects what to share about her plans, feelings, and relationships. Even though her mother may try to delve into her personal matters, the Sigma female skillfully avoids disclosing anything that could be used for manipulation or emotional harm. When questioned about her emotions or decisions, she responds with non-specific answers or shifts the focus of the conversation. This strategy leaves her mother without the leverage to control her. More than just a defense, this selective sharing of information empowers her. She takes charge of her own story, setting clear personal boundaries. She does not feel compelled to satisfy her mother's curiosity or let it influence her decisions. Instead, she values her privacy, using it as a protective barrier against the ups and downs of a difficult relationship. In a society where being open is often equated with vulnerability, she turns this idea on its head. Her ability to keep details of her life confidential is her strength, helping her deal with her mother in her way, leading to a more stable self-image and laying a solid foundation for her future. Number 5. She makes decisions without feeling the need to justify them. A Sigma female sets her own guidelines and makes her own life choices. She understands that trying to get her self-centered mother's approval is useless. It's a familiar trap where any explanation turns into fuel for more criticism. Rather than explaining herself, she chooses to keep her decisions to herself and act with intention. This isn't about concealing anything. She has nothing to conceal. It's more about safeguarding her peace and concentrating on what's truly important to her. Her quietness is not defiance. It's a way to protect herself. She knows that revealing too much just leads to judgment and manipulation. so she acts with a calm assurance that doesn't look for outside approval. Every move she makes, every objective she follows, is pursued free from her mother's influence. This keeps her energy clear and focused, not scattered by constant explanations or efforts to make others understand. A Sigma female is confident in this method because she puts her own clarity above the desire to be liked or understood. Her mother might question, criticize, or resent her quietness, but it doesn't sway her path. By not feeling the need to justify herself, she establishes a limit her mother cannot cross. This enables her to live genuinely, crafting her own life, free from the emotional snares that come with seeking approval where it will never be granted. Number 6. She becomes independent and self-reliant. A Sigma female knows that looking to her self-centered mother for emotional support often leads to letdowns. Rather, she takes on the role of her own caregiver, giving herself the love and care she missed out on as a child. This path of learning to care for herself is both strengthening and life-changing. She learns to treat herself kindly, giving herself the love and acceptance she always wanted but seldom got. When she feels hurt or overwhelmed, she comforts herself like a loving parent, reassuring herself that it's normal to have feelings and that her emotions are important. But she doesn't just stop there. A Sigma female also takes strict measures in looking after herself, drawing lines that safeguard her health and happiness. She notices when she's getting dragged into damaging relationships and bravely stands up against such negative patterns. This mix of kindness and strictness helps her become a stronger and more enduring person. She holds herself responsible, steering her choices with a clear purpose. Through this, she develops a deep, supportive inner voice, replacing the harmful self-criticism from her childhood with messages of her own strength and value. She learns to applaud her own successes, no matter how minor, and to forgive her own errors. By becoming her own guardian, she not only fills the voids left by her upbringing, but also builds a secure, caring space within herself. This major change cultivates self-love and toughness, essentially preparing her to lead her life on her own terms, free from the limits of her past. Number 7. She stands firm, even when faced with emotional manipulation. A Sigma female understands when someone is trying to emotionally manipulate her. This could be her self-centered mother using every tactic possible, like threatening to stop loving her, claiming to suffer a lot, or reminding her of past favors, to make her feel guilty, weak, or obliged. These strategies are meant to make her give up her own needs to please or rescue her mother. However, a Sigma woman doesn't give in to such pressure. She doesn't allow anyone's dramatic emotions to control her decisions. She can see past the fake tears and hollow threats, knowing that true love doesn't require her to constantly sacrifice herself or betray her own feelings. Therefore, when her mother acts like a victim or pretends her world is crumbling, the Sigma woman doesn't feel forced to step in and solve everything. She won't let herself be frightened into feeling guilty or losing love. It's not that she's heartless. She's just defending her own space and mental peace. Her strength comes from her ability to walk away if necessary. She values herself and knows that a healthy relationship isn't built on one person dominating the other with guilt and fear. So she stands her ground, resisting any attempts to sway her. She's not on this earth to be manipulated. She's here to live freely and by her own rules, unchained from anyone's emotional games. Number 8. She fully accepts situations as they are. A Sigma female understands that hoping for her self-centered mother to change is pointless. Instead, she adopts radical acceptance, a mindset that helps her see her mother as she really is, imperfect in many ways. This acceptance isn't about approving of her mother's actions. It's about understanding that her mother's flaws are deeply set and probably won't change. By giving up the wish for her mother to be different, she frees herself from the ongoing disappointment that has troubled her for a long time. This approach of radical acceptance acts as a barrier against emotional stress. It lets her witness her mother's behaviors without getting emotionally overwhelmed. When her mother shows her self-centered traits, she doesn't get upset or frustrated. She simply accepts it as part of her mother's character. This viewpoint helps her emotionally detach, lessening the effect of her mother's words and deeds on her own sense of self-worth. As she learns to manage her relationship with her mother with this understanding, she gains the ability to maintain a healthy space when necessary. This isn't about pushing her mother away, it's about protecting herself. By acknowledging her mother's shortcomings, she takes control of her own emotional health. This change reshapes how she interacts with her mother, allowing her to connect on terms that are clear, strong, and deeply aware of what can and cannot be changed. In the end, radical acceptance is an essential strategy for her to find peace in a relationship that might otherwise be full of strife and sorrow. Number 9. She prioritizes her own needs and doesn't feel sorry for it. A Sigma female understands that caring for herself first isn't being self-centered. It's necessary. She's witnessed the heavy costs of putting others' needs before her own. This often leads to feelings of bitterness, annoyance, and even total exhaustion. She's realized that always trying to please a demanding mother only leaves her empty, with nothing remaining for her own aspirations or the life she dreams of creating. Thus, she lets go of any guilt and confidently makes her own needs a priority, without any shame. This doesn't mean she neglects her mother. Rather, she establishes boundaries to safeguard her own energy. She knows that always meeting her mother's expectations at the expense of her own joy and tranquility isn't worth it. A Sigma female won't get lost in someone else's problems, no matter how deep the bond. She's tired of the unending cycle of emotional exchanges, where her contributions are seldom valued or recognized. She doesn't seek anyone's approval, especially not her mother's, to look after her own well-being. With a solid sense of her own value, she doesn't rely on others to affirm her actions. Her choices may not be well received by everyone, but she prioritizes her own mental and emotional health over pleasing those who only take from her. By prioritizing herself, she ensures she's strong enough to live life on her own terms, rather than letting anyone, even family, control her identity or life choices. Number 10. She refuses to be overwhelmed by others' emotional burdens. A Sigma female knows she shouldn't have to deal with her mother's emotional issues, even if her mother tries to push them onto her. Often, self-centered mothers treat their daughters like they're therapists or problem solvers, expecting them to take on all their rage, fears, and letdowns. However, a Sigma refuses to play this role. She understands that it's not her responsibility to sort out her mother's past troubles, childhood hurts, or everyday complaints, and she won't let herself be overwhelmed by someone else's turmoil. She sees through the guilt trips and pointless outbursts that only aim to pass negativity onto her. Instead of being drawn into this emotional storm, a Sigma establishes strong limits. She controls her interactions, listening just enough, but never taking on the role of fixer for issues that aren't hers to solve. This isn't about being uncaring, it's about protecting herself and her dignity. She knows that always being her mother's emotional outlet would just exhaust her, making her feel bitter and burdened with problems she didn't choose. By removing herself from this harmful pattern, she keeps her emotional life to herself. Her energy is spent where she decides, not where it's forced upon her. In this way, she liberates herself to concentrate on her own development, her own peace, and focusing on her own happiness, knowing she owes no one an apology for valuing herself. Number 11. She practices emotional detachment while remaining compassionate. Sigma female understands that sympathy is important, but also knows it can be used by narcissists to control people. Instead of being trapped by this, she learns to practice empathic detachment. This means she can recognize and accept her mother's emotions without getting caught up in her issues. She sees the pain and insecurity behind her mother's challenging behaviors, but keeps her own feelings separate. Empathic detachment allows her to watch her mother's troubles without taking on the negative feelings or guilt that might come with them. She keeps a safe distance, aware that she doesn't have to solve her mother's problems. This approach helps her handle her mother's manipulative actions with clear-headedness and calm, instead of feeling forced to respond out of regret or emotional pressure. By learning to detach with empathy, she creates a calm, emotional zone for herself. She listens to her mom's worries without getting caught up in the mess, which helps her stay calm and in charge. This doesn't mean she doesn't care. Instead, she shows care without hurting her own emotional well-being. She knows that supporting her mum doesn't mean she has to act like a caretaker or therapist. She can give support from a position of strength, making sure she doesn't lose her identity in the process. Her skill in empathic detachment changes the way they interact, focusing less on meeting her mum's emotional needs and more on preserving her own health. This skill is crucial for managing the complex dynamics of their relationship with ease, enabling her to safeguard her emotional energy while still being there for her mum's challenges. Number 12. She prioritizes objective truth over emotional narratives. A Sigma female knows that sharing emotional stories can get out of hand, particularly when her mother, who loves drama and manipulation, is involved. Instead of getting caught up in her mother's complex tales that are packed with overstatements and emotional appeals, she sticks to the facts. This strategy helps her keep a clear head and stay detached from the emotional turmoil that typically surrounds her mother's problems. By sticking to the facts, she can see her mother's true nature and accept how she behaves without letting it skew her own thinking. This involves understanding her mom's usual behaviors and the way they interact, instead of being swept up by the narratives that are usually meant to gain pity or influence. She's aware that her mum often views things in a way that isn't accurate, influenced by her self-centeredness and need for approval. This dedication to seeing things as they really are allows her to avoid the emotional pitfalls her mom creates. When her mom tries to alter the truth to make her feel guilty or sway her emotions, she can firmly set her limits without being moved by emotional pleas. She knows that her mother's stories do not shape her own reality or determine her value. Instead, she stays true to herself, making choices based on what she really understands about the situation, rather than just her feelings. This clear thinking helps her interact with her mother in a helpful rather than a reactive way. By focusing on the facts instead of getting swept up in emotions, she turns difficult conversations into chances to set healthy limits and strengthen her own sense of self. This approach not only guards her mental health, but also builds her identity as someone who creates her own reality, free from her mother's emotional influence. Number 13. She chooses silence over emotional battles. A Sigma female realizes that engaging in arguments with a narcissistic mother can be both draining and counterproductive. Rather than responding to provocations that lead nowhere, She embraces silence as a strategic response. This silence is not a sign of weakness or surrender. Instead, it's a powerful choice to preserve her mental well-being and avoid unnecessary emotional turmoil. By choosing not to argue, she conserves her energy and maintains her peace of mind, ensuring that her emotional reserves are not depleted by fruitless confrontations. Her silence serves as a shield, protecting her from the stress and frustration that often accompany interactions with her mother. This method of non-engagement highlights her maturity and her commitment to maintaining her serenity in the face of challenging family dynamics. Number 14. She fosters a network of emotional support. Recognizing the emotional challenges that come with having a narcissistic mother, a Sigma female proactively seeks out and cultivates relationships with individuals who truly understand and value her. She invests time and energy in building a circle of friends and allies whose presence in her life provides comfort, support, and validation. These relationships are based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and a shared understanding of each other's values and boundaries. Her supportive network acts as a crucial emotional lifeline, offering her a refuge where she can freely share her thoughts and feelings without judgment. This network not only enriches her emotional life, but also strengthens her resilience against the negative impacts of her mother's narcissism. By surrounding herself with positive and affirming individuals, she ensures that her personal environment is conducive to growth and emotional nourishment, fortifying her against the harsh realities of her familial interactions. In concluding their journey with a self-centered mother, Sigma females show remarkable strength and resilience that makes them stand out. They adopt complete acceptance, freeing themselves from ongoing disappointment and emotional chaos, and choose to recognize their mother's limitations without letting the pain affect them. They skillfully maintain a balance of empathy and distance, which helps them care for their mother while protecting their own emotional well-being. This creates a protective barrier against manipulation. Furthermore, Sigma females are experts at setting strong personal boundaries, seeing this as crucial for their health and not just a temporary solution. They prioritize their own needs and avoid becoming an outlet for their mother's emotional burdens, which helps them foster independence and peace. By choosing facts over emotional tales, they detach from their mother's dramatic stories, securing their sense of self in reality rather than in the unstable narratives fueled by narcissism. Sigma females stand up for themselves, reshaping their relationship with their mothers on their own terms. Their journey isn't about cutting ties, but about transforming the relationship to allow for personal growth and healing. By standing firm and not yielding to control, they design their emotional environments, showing that self-care and love can coexist even in complex family situations. Their method is a proof of their mental fortitude, demonstrating that they can meet their own needs while gracefully dealing with a challenging family legacy. Thanks everyone for watching. Catch you in the next video. Bye, stay blessed, and as always, until next time.